one thing that we often run up against is people like, oh yeah, small acts of kindness. And we're like, no, no, no. There's no such thing as a small act of kindness. It's a simple act. Whether I'm speaking in front of 500 people or we're interacting with thousands of kids at a festival, we kind of just put out there like every single action has a reaction to it. You can make it positive. Hi, I'm Josh Berg from the Be Like Ellie Foundation, and you're entering a world gone good.
Well, hello, my name's Steve, and this is the place where we shine the light on everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. This is the podcast where you get to take a break from the noise, meet some new friends along with me, remind ourselves there is still good out there and lots of it, and maybe all together let out a big exhale. So come on, right now, let's all just do this together. Take a big breath in. Hold it for a moment. And let it out. See? Things are feeling gooder already. Today, we share some good that came from something not so good at all. Josh and Carly Berg suffered the deepest loss anyone can endure, the loss of a child. At 6 years old, their daughter Ellie passed away in a freak accident simply playing in their backyard. This is not an easy conversation to ever have with anyone who has experienced this kind of loss, but it is an important one because together we can learn how to move through and with a loss as big as this, and we can also learn what we can do with it and where the good can be born from it. Josh and Carly are the co-founders of the Be Like Ellie Foundation, where the message is simple: spread love, be kind, play music. How easy is that? This was pretty much how their daughter lived her life. And so today's show, we celebrate that life of Miss Ellie. Here comes Josh Berg to share the good of the Be Like Ellie Foundation. And we are now traveling back to the United States from jolly old London across the pond quite a bit, I believe, to Boulder, Colorado. Is that where you are, Josh?
That's correct, Steve.
Lifelong Boulder, Colorado resident. Like, moved there. How did we hit the boulders?
Sure. So I'm originally from New York, definitely a New Yorker through and through. I moved with work to Costa Rica for a bit. I was back in New York. I was fortunate enough to meet my amazing wife, Carly, and Costa Rica had slowed me down. So I was like, hey, I don't know how long I can stay in New York anymore. And we decided to move to Atlanta, which is where her parents were, because we had a feeling we'd want to start a family someday. That was shockingly quick, but when you know, you know. And we ended up having our daughter, Ellie. She was born, and then we just realized Atlanta wasn't for us anymore. So we bought an RV. I quit my job. We put our house on the market, bought an F-250, and started traveling the country. And after 4 months and 14,000 miles, ended up in Colorado and been here ever since.
I grew up in New York and New Jersey myself.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, we have that in common. But it's a whole other, I would believe, going down to Costa Rica, it's a whole other vibe. It's a whole other motion, if you will, lifestyle, pace.
Very much. The people are amazing. It's just a place filled with friendly people. The driving definitely gets to be insane, and I'm saying that in someone who lived in Manhattan and Brooklyn for a long time. But so that's like the only stress is when you're in your car. Besides that, it's just a slower pace where people are good at connecting, and it's just a beautiful place to live. I was very fortunate that work took me there. And when I got back, as much as I loved Manhattan, I knew and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Carly, realized it just wasn't where we would want to raise a kid. And we were interested in going to the suburbs. I'd never lived in Atlanta, but we picked up just because her parents were there. So yeah, that was a pretty quick start to our journey.
What was camper life like?
Oh man, that was unbelievable. I mean, I think it was the healthiest I'd ever been mentally. Ellie was maybe, I think, 18 months, and we had two dogs. And you know, Carly was working. She had started a bookkeeping company, which fast forward, we've been running together for a very long time at this point. But back then, I just was like, yeah, I'll help you with that. And I'll do, the driving, the mapping out the road travel and figure out all the sites and everything like that. And spend a lot of time with Ellie, which was amazing. And Carly got to spend a lot of time with Ellie because her business was fairly new. And we just spent so much time together, so much time, a lot of downtime sitting or being in the car and singing and seeing sights that we never thought we'd see. We went to the Black Hills and saw bison for well, first time we saw them was in Kansas, but then we saw tons in the Black Hills. And that was just one of countless stops. And everything along the way had its own beauty and meeting so many different people. It was just the smartest outside of leaving corporate America to spend more time with my daughter and my wife. It was the smartest thing we'd ever done.
And so you had a really blessed life going on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In October of 2023, I turned to my wife and said, you know, I realized I've achieved nirvana. And it's not something I'd ever chased. It's not something I thought about. But I had a moment where I was thinking how everything was how it had to be. It was just perfect. I was happy with myself. I was happy with work. My family was amazing. There were things that I didn't have but didn't need or want. It was a really unique feeling that it just hit me one day. And I feel so lucky to have had that.
Tell everybody about Ellie.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. Man, deciding to have a kid is something that some people take lightly. Carly and I thought about it and talked about it for quite some time because our life was really good, just the two of us, and we didn't know if we wanted to disrupt that. But we made the decision. We said, you know what? We're pretty sure being parents is right for us, and we'd be an amazing family with an extra human on board. And so we tried, and I feel like when you're a parent, you're just constantly trying new things, right? And we dove right in. And from the second Ellie was born, I was just filled with love. I remember a friend telling me, some people have a kid and like right away they're in love with them. And I love my children, but it didn't hit me like that. I didn't know them. It's just this human. And I said, no, I was different. The second Ellie was born and I was in that delivery room, I had a feel like never had before. And I know it was the same for my wife. So another way that I just look at considering myself unbelievably lucky. Growing up, Ellie was just so special. She was the kind of kid where everyone would call her an old soul, which is a really crazy thing to think about later on, right, in our journey. But she was the kind of person that even at a very early age, she didn't move very quickly. She was a little late to walk, but she spoke super early. So she would communicate with people, with this tiny little kid. And I always talk about the how she would be in grocery stores and someone would walk by and just always thinking of others and how to lift them up. When she could barely speak, she'd go, I like your shoes. I like your purple shirt. And people would turn around, couldn't figure out who it came from. And I'd point, or my wife would point at Ellie, and they'd be in shock and start laughing. But she would notice people, I mean, instantly. And same thing with animals. She loved dogs. She would, you know, spend all her time playing with kids or dogs if she could. And then at the same time, like, I remember we were watching a CU Boulder football game, at a friend's house, and she loved this friend and his older sister and younger brother. And then afterwards, and they played the whole time. And afterwards, she said to me, she's like, "Daddy, next time we go there, can I stay up and watch the game with you?" And she didn't have a bad time. I asked her, she's like, "No, no, I just really like watching the game." And that was at 5 years old. So it was great having a little kid who was so diverse in what she liked and had no problem voicing it. And she just spent so much time loving other people, loving her family, her friends, and naturally doing good. She didn't say, like, I want to go help people or have this like grand gesture in mind. She just did it. And it was all towards what we saw. It was just, in this empathic way of making other people feel seen.
So it's a difficult transition for you, of course, and for me to bring up here. But what happened with Ellie? What happened in the backyard? Or if you want to talk about it, I've read on the site there was an accident.
Yeah. So
And whatever you want to share, this is your story. So you're whatever you want to tell us.
I appreciate it. I mean, it's interesting when someone's going through grief. Everybody's different. So there's no prescribed way to know what to do to be with someone, help them. But for us, oh, and I do just recommend asking for those who are struggling with how to help a friend or loved one going through grief. For us, good or bad, all I want to do is talk about my daughter. And so you asking a question that's always difficult, it's better than no question at all. And I really appreciate it. So yeah, it was one day where it was Sunday. I'm so it's an interesting thing with the brain, as you may know, when you have a traumatic event, certain things break as a defense mechanism. And for me, it's time. My brain doesn't process time as well. And that hasn't changed. So someone will say, like, how old is so and so? Or when did this happen? And I have such a hard time answering that. So uh I believe it was a Sunday. And Carly was upstairs getting some stuff done. I was doing some stuff, and Ellie was waiting for our neighbor, who I think it was two. When I was originally asked, I said four by someone else, just to show you how bad I am with time now. But she was waiting for him to wake up so she could play with this little boy in the backyard, and she wanted to go outside. We didn't really like her going outside by herself, and we have this concrete pad out back. So I said, "Ellie, what are you going to go do outside?" She goes, "I'm going to go practice dribbling my basketball." I'm like, "That's what you're going to do?" She's like, "Yeah, okay, okay. That just that's what you're going to do. That's all I want you to do outside." Okay. Well, Carly's upstairs. I think she was cleaning up in Ellie's room, and she goes, "Hey, Ellie's on the slack line. I don't want her on that." So I get up and I go into our bedroom, which has a sliding glass door outside, and she's hanging upside down on the slack line, and she smiles at me, the most beautiful smile, and I shake my head. I smile back, but I shake my head like, "Get down." And I start walking to go outside, but to get there, I was going through the kitchen, and I pass our windows in the kitchen, and I don't see her anymore. And to be very candid, I don't remember doing this, but apparently I screamed, "Ellie's dead." And I got outside within about 3 seconds. The tree had given way and it fell on her. And I picked her up and I screamed for Carly, and we ended up getting to the hospital. I legitimately drove the wrong side of the road with over 100 miles an hour. We got there in about 4 minutes, but she basically died in our arms. Um, Very traumatic. Not anything anybody should have to go through, but even with about as difficult a moment, and that moment is forever for us, by the way. That moment is not a moment in time. It's just a moment that started then that will never end. But even with that, I still consider myself one of the luckiest people ever to live, because I'll take nearly 7 years with Ellie and this pain 1,000 times over than not having her at all. And that's not said lightly, because this is not easy. So thank you for asking. It is difficult to share, and I know it's very difficult for people to hear, but it's also part of life and part of Ellie's story. So I appreciate the opportunity.
We had a guest on here a very long time ago. I'm going to go all the way back and say, talk about numbers, right? We're talking about numbers,
Mhm.
right? So I would guess this was episode 7 or 8, and we're up to about, you're going to be episode 248, I believe. So 240 something episodes ago, my friend Janice came on to talk about her mom, who there was a big windstorm on Long Island, and the wind was whipping around and it was getting really strong. This is back, I think, in the 80s or 90s, I believe, maybe the 90s. And her mom went out in the backyard and her dad said, no, careful out there. And the tree in the backyard just gave way and fell right on top of her, and her mom was gone.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
how you wrap your head around the logistics of that and the logic of it and coming to terms with it, it's so many levels, as, this was her parent, but this was your child. And that's a lot, man. That's a lot to process. So my question to you is, how have you been processing? I mean, I know how you've been processing. You started an incredible organization, which we're going to get to. But for you, before we get to that, how have you been processing?
Yeah, first off, and I'm so sorry to hear that. It's anytime, and I appreciate you sharing Janice's name. Anytime I hear about someone that passed, I always ask their name. It's important for me to ask somebody's name. It brings them to light. So if I can offer any advice to anyone, when you hear that someone's child or parent or friend or whoever passed, just if you don't know what to say, simply ask their name. I think it's a beautiful gesture. So thanks for sharing Janice's name with me.
Well,
And
this
in
was
turn,
Janice. Janice is the daughter. So just to
oh,
clarify to everybody,
oh, got
this
it.
was her mom, who I have no idea. Her name was Mrs. Mayrana. That's the best I can do for everybody.
I know nobody by that last name, so I will never forget that. And that's the whole point in my mind. So thank you. I appreciate that.
But what you said is what you said is so powerful. If I can get this in really quickly, because so many times when my dad was sick, and my dad was sick for a very long time, and he finally passed, so many of my friends sort of backed away, and they said, well, I backed away because I knew you needed your own space. I knew you needed time. I knew you needed to be with your family. And what you said is so powerful, because what I said back to these very close friends of mine was, well, how did you know that? You didn't ask me.
Beautiful. Well said.
And they would stop, and I would say, just ask me. I'll tell you. No, I'm okay today. No, I'm terrible today. You know what would really help me out? Could you go pick up this dry cleaning for me? Whatever it is, right? But I
100%.
think that is the thing, is I don't think people always know what to say, so they don't say anything. And then they say, that was my gift to you, and you're like, nope, that wasn't.
You nailed it.
Yeah, I get it. I get, not the same, but I get it. Continue on.
No, 100. First off, may I ask your father's name?
Mr. Jay Silverman, he will be gone 10 years coming up this June 18th, and he was from Brooklyn, New York, and he was an athlete, an amazing guy who never smoked, rarely drank, was in great shape, and he just got dealt a bad hand of cancer. And that's what happens sometimes, you know?
Yeah. I will say I love how your response told me about him. That that's a beautiful thing to do, and I really appreciate it because one of the things I feel bad about is that sometimes when someone asks me about Ellie, I get so concerned with their feelings that I try to brush past, talking about her a little bit because I can feel their energy. I can see how like uncomfortable they are because humans don't know how to handle grief, and we're not taught that, especially grief of someone losing their child because it's not the natural order of things. So you just telling me about your dad instantly was so powerful. And yeah, someone recently said to me when I did take the time and told them, they said, thanks for sharing a little bit about Ellie with me. I feel like I got to know her some, and I feel that way about your dad. So thank you. So to answer your question, how do I process and how do I handle? I I never had a therapist before, and I do now. And I said recently, I don't. I know it seems like I'm processing things well, and I feel like I'm processing things the best I can, but how do we ever know, right? Like, how will I know fully how I'm doing? And the response I got was good. Like, it was like, we don't really know, right? There are clinical things. I don't have depression, which is, that's a whole other story, not about me, but in general. And I'm very fortunate that that's not something I believe I'm going to face. But to know how I'm doing is, you know, it's hard. My wife and I both feel like we're walking the earth as two people at the same time, not together. I mean, like we're individually two people at the same time, and we're together. And what I mean by that is, I'll do presentations, I'll do all these things, and my wife will put on amazing events, and people are like, "How do you do that?" Oh my gosh! I'm like, I'm not here. I'm not here right now. Physically, I'm here and I'm able to function, but you don't see how every night after Carly goes up to my daughter's room and comes down and is crying, and I greet her at the bottom of the stairs every single night. And how I was away this weekend for the first time since Ellie passed, and it was crushing me thinking that I couldn't greet her at the bottom of the stairs. And people don't see that because I'm not hiding under my bed, which is completely understandable if that's what someone is doing. I'm out there doing all that I know. And that's to and it's the same for my wife, and that's to honor Ellie. And I focus a lot on the quote. I focus on the chopped up version of it. The original version by Nietzsche is, he who has a why can bear with almost any how. But for me, I focus on, he who has a why can bear with any how. And Ellie's my why. I've already had the most difficult visual end day of my life. It doesn't get any easier. I'm not okay, but I understand that. And I'm aware of that. And I think it's important to allow myself to find time to function and allow myself time to grieve and not hide from either of those. And that's really what I think is amazing about the foundation we've started to honor her, which I know we'll talk about, but that's given us a place to still parent Ellie by showing her, the right way, but we're just parenting in a different way.
And you're opening that up to so many people to join in with you, which is a very powerful thing. And and everyone listening knows this is like, and it's too simplistic to say at times, but it's like I can say it on my own terms. My father doesn't want me sitting around crying about him. He doesn't. He wants me laughing about things. He wants me living my best life. He wants me creating things that I can create. He wants me to hopefully keep an eye on my mother, who's a little woman from Brooklyn, New York, and a little Jewish woman from Brooklyn, New York, and they're like the Tasmanian devil. They're a little hard to keep up with, but you know what I'm saying. Um,
100%.
and it's the same truth with your daughter. And so in doing that, you and your wife decided, when was it, to start a foundation in your daughter's honor, in your daughter's memory?
Yeah. I just want to call out, we are similar because early on, I said to Carly that if the tables were turned, I asked her, if we passed and Ellie was still here, would we want her to spend every minute grieving or carrying grief and carrying the sadness, but finding ways to find joy again? And that's how we would want her to live. And that's what we're doing our best to do. She's a pretty amazing child, so it is very difficult because you have truly lost a body part, right? Like, a child is an extension of your body. You created them, and when they're gone, that body part's missing and you never get it back. So that's difficult, but we we're doing our best, and it all started really quickly after she passed. We just felt like this feeling of, she wasn't done. Why is she gone? You have a lot of questions. And I think you ask more questions at the beginning than anything because there's so much confusion, shock, trauma. And I think it was just a natural thing. We're like, well, we have to carry on what she was doing. And I had some friends that had unfortunate events in their life where they started, a foundation and said to me, don't do it too quickly. It, you want to take some time before you do it. And I was like, okay, I'm not listening to you, but sure. I appreciate the advice. I appreciate the advice. And I'm sure for many people you're correct. But for us, if we don't do this right now, it's not going to work out. So Ellie passed on November 19th, 2023. And that was about a month after I turned to Carly and said, I've achieved nirvana, just to give you an idea of our timeline.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And it was also, I will share this, it was also a few weeks after we were at a CU Boulder women's basketball game, which Ellie absolutely loved women's sports and sports in general, but especially women's sports. Worked hard to get her into them when she was young because I wanted her to see strong, powerful women kicking butt and taking names. And we were at a game, and all of a sudden, Ellie gets featured on the Jumbotron. And she says to me, she said, Daddy, now that I've been on TV, I could never truly die. And that was a couple weeks before she passed, which is why it's difficult for me to say. But it was just one of those things that when it's said, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's amazing. You got on the Jumbotron, great. And then you look at it after and you're like, oh man, that is some crazy timing. And we're doing our best to make sure that her name never dies. So first and foremost, we were talking and we were just talking about Ellie and what we could do. And we said, at her core, Ellie was just so kind, sometimes to a fault, getting frustrated if someone wouldn't even let her help them. When she was in preschool, some of the feedback we got was, we love Ellie. She's great, but sometimes she thinks she's a teacher because she's trying to help all the kids, which is beautiful, but also it gets to be a bit much. So it's pretty funny feedback because she definitely was not doing it to, be difficult. She's doing it because if you have the opportunity to help, why would you not? So May 7th is when we, registered with the state of Colorado. So that's officially the first date, but we've been working on it, I'd say, since maybe 2 months after she passed.
And when you started working on it and you started formulating ideas, did you have an immediate plan where you like, this is what we're going to do? We're going to raise money for this type of thing. This is what we're going to do. We're going to spread information about that type of thing. Because what I saw on the website is really, in a genius way, and we've had other organizations on here, including right off the top of my head, Connor's Kindness is very similar to what you're doing. It's simple, what you're doing. It's simple in an attainable and actionable way for someone like me to go online, look at what the website has to tell me and go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And so much of it is so simply based in spreading kindness. Was that the plan from the get-go?
Yeah, and I appreciate how you said simple because
I have to be careful with that because, people go like, oh, it's dumb. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's like,
yeah,
this podcast is simple, everybody. I talked to people who are doing good things. The end. I sold it in half a sentence.
exactly. No, I agree with you. And one thing that we often run up against is people like, oh yeah, small acts of kindness. And we're like, no, no, no. There's no such thing as a small act of kindness. It's a simple act. So, whether I'm speaking in front of 500 people or we're interacting with thousands of kids at a festival, we kind of just put out there like every single action has a reaction to it. You can make it positive. So we thought about Ellie and the things that she would do. And I've got I've got a picture on my desk that I talk about every time I present, and it's sitting here. And the directions. This was 3 months or 2.5 months about before she passed. It says, draw a picture of you being a good friend. Write a sentence to tell about your picture. It shows a little kid. She drew the picture, little kid with her eyes down and sad. And then you see another kid standing next to them, and you could tell it's her based on the drawing. It says hello with a smile. And it then says at the bottom, the prompt is, I can be a good friend when I. And Ellie goes, say hello, make people happy. That's it. She didn't say change the world. She didn't say, like I said earlier on, some grandiose gesture. It's just say hello. It'll make people happy. And I often talk about how you never know if you held the door for someone that they're not going to go home and kick their dog or, you know, get in a car accident because they were aggressive, all because you paid for their cup of coffee or said it, hi, I like your shoes when you walk by, like Ellie. And, it's a difficult thing to talk about for society, but when we think about some of the horrific acts that have happened with regards to shootings, during my presentations, when I do presentations for law enforcement, it's slightly different because I can talk about a specific person. That's obviously a little too difficult to talk about with corporations or schools. And I share a 52-second clip of this gentleman's speech, and he talks about the horrific childhood he had. And he was going to shoot. He was going to try to kill people. And his friend, he was in high school, and he had basically one friend. And out of nowhere, it seemed like the kid picked up on that something was right, but didn't actually ask him. He goes, hey, why don't you come hang out at my house for a couple days? We'll watch Netflix, get some pizza. And the way the guy talks about it is he goes, he treated it like a Tuesday. He just went out and was kind to him. And then he goes, I never did get that gun. And it was all because this person just was like, hey, man, I see you. Let me be a part of your life in a simple way. And who knows? One of the people that didn't die that day could now cure cancer, could be anything, all because one person did something so simple. And we have countless examples of Ellie doing the simplest things to make someone's day, even down to a couple days before Ellie passed. She goes, or sorry, the day before, she goes, hey, can I write a letter to Caroline, who was her preschool teacher years ago, and who she hadn't seen in a while, and to her great grandfather, Gino. And she wrote different letters. And I remember to Caroline, who's an amazing human, just like, hey, Caroline, I hope you're going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. I've got a hip hop concert coming up. Ellie loved to dance. I'd love for you to see you, etc. That's it. And there was no, like, why? We were just baffled, like, and so proud of her. Why'd you think of these people randomly? And we ended up giving that letter to Caroline at Ellie's funeral, which is a thought and a sentence no one should ever have or have to say. But even in that moment, I was just so proud of my daughter for doing something so simple to make someone's day better. And even on the worst day, and I know Caroline, I know it was one of the worst days for her, Elliot passed and still figured out a way to make her day better. So we know that we're just a vehicle for Ellie making other people's days better and making the world a better place.
It's really interesting with kids, especially someone like Ellie and just children in general, where they can be so connected, where we are having all these blocks put in our way, right? We have the job to get to, we have the laundry to do, there's going to be traffic. Oh, you didn't pick that up at the pharmacy, right? Like all those things. And then you have children and kids who can simplify it so easily. And it sounds like she was highly connected, not just to the world and others around her, but to who she was and how she could be part of that world. And what's amazing is that you're through your organization and what you're doing is you're inviting other people to do the same. And again, it's very simple. And that's what makes it so special, especially right now in a world that is craving what you and I are doing right now, which is connection, right?
Yeah, thank you. That was beautifully said, and it's interesting
It really
because
wasn't that beautiful. I wrote it before and I've just read it off. Just go ahead. Kidding. I'm
I didn't
kidding. I'm
think you wrote
kidding.
that.
I
No, I
didn't
didn't
write
think
it.
you
I
wrote
didn't
that.
write
Yeah,
it. No, no. Go ahead.
you're
Go ahead.
good. I'm sitting here the whole time going, "Oh man, he's right. I have to do the laundry." So
Right. No, right. It's just
that's
things
the
that
point.
little kids don't have to think about.
They don't, nor should they. I'm I'm always impressed with, Ellie was a normal kid because so I'll say, yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. We had moments. Everyone has moments where you're going, hey, we're gonna have to go talk about this outside. Like, take a breather and we'll go back in. But because they're human, nobody should have uh, this like even steady existence, right? You should have ups and downs because with the downs you feel the ups, if you will. And Ellie loved and Ellie felt. And man, one of my favorite memories of Ellie was she was playing soccer and she was on a team that would always win. And they played another team. And the other team, and Ellie would usually score. She loved being goalie, but she would also play all positions and just loved the game. And the other team beat them 10-0. And the other team was a year older, and it was a scheduling thing. I don't know why they played them, but at that age, every year, all of a sudden, everyone becomes a giant to you,
Right. Right.
you know? So I see her during the game, and oh man, the fire in this kid. And keep in mind, she's at the age where the jerseys don't fit, and kids are stopping to eat snacks and things. But I look at Carly at the end of the game. I go, just give me a minute with Ellie when she comes off the field. And she comes off, and I see her brow is so furrowed and her eyes are welling up. And I say, hey, Ellie, come here for a second. She comes to the corner. All the other kids are going with their parents. And I go, you seem like something's going on. What's up? And she's like, it's not fair. They're older than us, and we shouldn't be playing with them. And we lost. And she starts crying. And I go, give me a hug. Can I have a hug? She hugs me. I go, let's take a breath. I go, all right, listen, you lost. It happens. Did you try your hardest? She's like, yeah, but it's not fair. I go, but you tried your hardest. You should be really proud of that. And you also know the next time you want to be prepared so that even when something's not fair and you've got bigger players, faster players, you figure out a way to win if that's really what matters to you. And I stood there and talked to her for about 5 minutes until she calmed down. And then she was fine. And I was so impressed because I didn't have that growing up. I'd be like, oh, we lost. Do we still get ice cream? Like, what's up? That's all I cared about. So I don't know where she got this, but to see that fire and care and emotion where some people might be like, oh, why are you throwing a tantrum? That was the best tantrum that kid ever had. So I appreciate how much she felt. And I'm definitely like that. It's not easy. When you're an emotional empath, it is very hard, especially when you're young and you don't know why you have all these emotions and you can feel things from other people. So I understood her. And that was such a gift.
The Be Like Ellie Foundation has a bunch of initiatives going on. And like I said, a lot of them are really not, again, simple, easy, attainable, actionable ways to get things done. You have kindness events and initiatives. You have child and adult programs where workshops and assemblies can happen at schools. You have hands on activities, kindness challenges. What has been your favorite thing? You also have some grants. You're giving money away, but I love it because some of your grants are like amazing because it's so, again, simple and actionable. This person needs a better pair of running shoes. This person needs, a lunch meal, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a favorite thing on the site that you get to do on a daily or weekly basis that makes you feel like you are spreading her around some.
Yeah, I appreciate the way you described all that. And for me, honestly, I think the
That part I
simplest thing.
read, Josh. That part I read. Go ahead.
I
Keep
don't
going.
believe it. I think you shoot from the hip all the time, and I'm
I can't
sticking with that
remember all of
story.
that.
Oh man. Um, I think the simplest thing we do is probably my favorite. Also, I don't have to do it. My wife does it, so that's that's kind of easy.
Bonus.
Yeah. But no, in general, I think it really speaks to our foundation. We have this program called Kindness Letters. And if you do you remember Mad Libs as a kid?
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, basically you would have a little booklet and it would have a whole paragraph and some of the words were missing. And it would say fill in a noun, fill in a adverb, and everyone would go, "What's an adverb?" I just, um,
It ends in ly. Keep going.
yeah, exactly. And then there's an argument about it, but
Right.
you know, so and then the other person would just keep giving you those words, and at the end you'd read the paragraph, and it would be this silly, funny story. So our kindness letter program is we've got this beautifully designed card that on the back it either has hearts or smiley faces. It says "Be like Ellie," and you are asked five simple questions about a person. You enter their email address and you send it to us, and then on the beautifully printed card, Carly hand fills in your answers, and we mail it to that person. No cost to anybody. And the card basically says, "Dear blank, I want to let you know how much I appreciate blank. I admire how blank you are, and I feel lucky to know you. Sending you blank today and always with kindness." And then there's the other version is if it's a family member or loved one, it's slightly different, but getting that in the mail is just such a slow, like entering your questions and answers, and then someone receiving it, opening the mail, thinking about it, taking the time to tell someone. It's all this slow, simple stuff that gets people to connect not only in person and gets them to think about one another. And it's a simple act of kindness. So we do countless things, some huge, some small. Sorry, see, look at me. Some,
Well, small to you, but to somebody else might be ginormous. How it affects them.
amen. Well said. I think what I mean by small is in terms of level of effort, right? So we've got the Tulip and Fairy Festival in Boulder, Colorado, which I just received an email 30 minutes ago. It's being pushed because of weather. So that I think is on May 3rd, and there will be thousands of people there, thousands of kids, and my wife and other people that are on our board and committees have designed this sun catcher that the children will make and color kindness coloring pages for younger kids. And the whole thing will be like make a sun catcher and either keep it or do the act of kindness of giving it to someone else. So simple, beads on a string, beautiful in the light, does not take a ton of effort. But the whole time a kid's doing it, they could be thinking about Ellie, they could be thinking about doing something for someone else. And things like that are what we're trying to instill not only in children, because like I said, I speak at colleges, I speak, organizations at colleges, clubs, etc., sports teams, law enforcement, you name it. And we tailor those presentations to match the audience. So we focus on, hey, what are your areas of interests? Based on that area of interest, what can you do to be kind in those areas? Because if I said to you, Steve, hey, Steve, why don't you, next time you're out in public, hold the door for someone? And you're like, I'm agoraphobic. I haven't left my house in 10 years. Yeah. I haven't met you in person, but I know that's not the case.
No, it's not.
And from your amazing energy, but that clearly wouldn't be something that resonates with you. And it doesn't start to create this neural pathway to allow you to do it. So if I said, Steve, next time you're chatting with someone, ask them a specific question about their parents or about their day, whatever, that resonates because you talk to people all the time. And then you'll start to do it, and then you'll start to do it over and over again. And that's a ripple effect that started with Ellie, goes through us, and will be carried on from you to the next person to the next person. And that's the connection you talked about that we're so honored to be able to help create thanks to Ellie.
Where did people find the website? Plug away, please, and also social media.
Sure. Right before our call today, realized I was like, oh, I've got to update the website. We do a lot of stuff, and I'm so bad at promotion. it's, it's just, I'm not of the TikTok age. So for me, social media is, let's put it this way, when I have to create a reel, I'm like, oh, well, there goes 24 hours. So I, I'm so impressed. It's truly a moment to feel old when all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, there's a technology that I have to do, and it doesn't just come naturally. So I'm impressed by everybody that just, makes these things happen so beautifully and so quickly. It's a lot of effort for us. And I do also reflect on how much we're doing, and it makes me feel proud that we're not even necessarily sharing. But that being said, if you go to belikeellie.com, and Ellie is Ellie, we do often get asked if anyone's curious. Ellie's not short for anything. She's named after my grandmother, Evelyn, and her middle name is Pearl, named after Carly's grandmother, Pearl. So she's Ellie Pearl. She loved her full name. When she was very little, she would say Ellie Pearl Berg. Ellie Pearl Berg is how she would introduce herself, which was really cute. So if you go to belikeellie.com, you'll be able to see things that we do. You'll be able to see a beautiful picture of Ellie. You scroll down, you'll see a sizzle reel of one of my presentations at an elementary school here in Boulder. And you can even find, we've got a nice list of kindness activities that adults could do or share with their children. And we get messages all the time on Instagram of, hey, you've never met me, but I stumbled across Ellie and your foundation, and here's a photo of what me and my kids did. Or I'm in this state, but I went on vacation and I painted a kindness rock and I brought it with me and I left it. And these are all people that we never met, and it's pretty impressive. So you can be a part of that movement through our website, or we're very active on Instagram. It's at Be Like Ellie, and we respond personally. So if you're writing, you're reaching out, that's us. We do have a lot of people helping us, but it's very important that from answering emails and answering social media messages, that you get to interact with Ellie's parents. So that's the easiest way to stay on top of what we're doing. We have a newsletter you could sign up for at the bottom of our website. It's extremely infrequent. So if you're looking to get the most information, Instagram is the easiest way to keep up on what we're doing and get a little slice of extra kindness in your day and be a part of that ripple effect.
Well, let me tell you something before I ask you the final question that we end all the shows with. We were meant to speak today because you're gonna either laugh really hard or get like a weird shiver through your body. First of all, my mother's name is Ellen. She's not an Ellie, but her mother's name was Pearl.
Whoa.
So my grandmother, who I never met, was Pearl. My mother is Ellen. Your daughter was Ellie Pearl, but not 100% there because it wasn't after an Ellen, but still close enough, I would have to say at the moment.
It's close enough for my cheeks to hurt from a big smile. So thank you. I appreciate that.
We close these shows with a final question. It is not a question. It is a statement to finish, and it can be anything you want it to be. And it goes like this. Finish this. Tell me something good.
My daughter was an exceptional person. Ellie is who I want to be. And I think that by paying a little attention to what we're doing with our foundation, you'll find a little bit within yourself of who you want to be. And you'll create a world for yourself where the energy that you're getting is related to the energy you're giving. It's the true karma. And I truly believe that you'll be a part of making the world a better place, just like Ellie.
Thank you, Josh, for sharing your daughter's story with us and the good of the Be Like Ellie Foundation. Next time on World Gone Good.
I think you hide a bit and then you just need to bring it out to the surface like I have. I don't like the word people say, oh, you're reinventing yourself. Well, no, because I'm still the same person. I'm probably bringing that younger version up that was a bit more confident to the surface and working on it a little bit with confidence and all those little limiting beliefs that we have, and saying, hell yeah, I can do this. Yes, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, and yes, I might need to fail forward, but hell, what's the worst that can happen?
Sarah Cleaver turned 50 and had a life-changing epiphany in the form of a question: who is she? And where in this world does she see herself? Have you ever questioned that yourself? I have. Once she found the answer, she decided to share it with other women hitting midlife and potential crisis modes. Her good message: live life now. That's simple. We're going to dive in good and deep with exactly how she's doing this and so much more on our next incredibly inspiring and brand new episode. I can't wait for you to hear it. Until then, be good.